Hey, what's up guys, Will here for GSM Arena. This is the Redmi 9T, and it's one of the newest entry-level phones available from Xiaomi. It also happens to be nearly identical to the recent Poco M3. What's the difference, and is this the better phone to get? Let's find out in our full review. The Redmi 9T and Poco M3 are very similar entry-level devices. The Redmi has a little bit more to offer though, and is slightly more expensive. At the time of this review, the Redmi 9T would go for 140 euros, while the Poco 120. It's not a huge difference, but it's sort of noticeable compared to the total price of the phone. Despite a similar plastic build, the Redmi 9T's design is different. It has a glossy metallic finish that reflects light in a star-shaped pattern, and the vinyl-like texture on the back adds some extra grip too. One unique feature that the 9T brings to the table is splashproofing. Even though it's not IP rated, it's nice to have for peace of mind. The only other real differences from the Poco are that the Redmi 9T has NFC support, and on the back there's an additional 8-megapixel ultra-wide camera. But we'll get to that in a bit. The rest of the features are basically the same. So let's start with the screen. It's a 6.53-inch IPS LCD, protected by Gorilla Glass 3, with a 1080p resolution and a dot-drop notch. We're happy to have a full HD resolution here since many entry-level phones offer just 720p. This screen looks decent enough and has good contrast for an LCD. Colors are acceptably accurate, depending on your color settings, and as far as brightness goes, we measured over 430 nits maximum with the slider. It's alright, but might not be enough on a very sunny day. For audio, the Redmi 9T is one of the few devices in this price range with a stereo speaker setup. Loudness measures very good on our charts, and the quality is excellent, with full and clear sound. You also have a 3.5mm jack for plugging in traditional headphones, as well as FM radio support. Waking up and unlocking the phone is done with a side-mounted fingerprint reader, which is fast and accurate. And the Redmi 9T has 64 or 128 gigs of onboard storage, which is expandable through a dedicated microSD slot. Under the hood of the Redmi 9T is a Snapdragon 662 chipset, which is built on an 11nm process. Performance here is nothing special to be honest, although that is expected at this price. In benchmarks, the Redmi 9T mostly holds its own against the competition CPU-wise, but its GPU performance falls behind due to the more demanding 1080p display. While things run generally decent, you may encounter a hiccup from time to time while playing a game or swiping the UI. The chipset is rather power efficient though, which works really well together with the device's huge 6000 mAh battery. Battery life here is some of the best we've seen yet. The Redmi 9T was able to earn an awesome score of 150 hours in our proprietary tests. However, charging this huge battery is anything but fast. The phone supports up to 18 watts of power input, and the bundled 22.5 watt charger was only able to charge the phone from 0 to 25% in half an hour. The Redmi 9T's interface is MIUI 12 based on Android 10. It's a UI pretty ubiquitous across recent Xiaomi devices. One difference here from previous versions of MIUI is that you get native support for an app drawer, if you opt for it. Also, the notification shade can be split into two different menus, a notification center and a control center. And thanks to an IR blaster, you can use the phone as a remote to control certain appliances with. One thing we did notice is that you may encounter occasional ads, like after you install an app. While it may be a bit annoying, it's not that obtrusive and helps to lower the cost of the phone. Let's move on to the Redmi 9T's cameras. The 8-megapixel ultra-wide is something you won't find on the Poco M3. The rest are the same though, a 48-megapixel quad-Bayer main cam, a 2-megapixel macro camera, and a depth sensor. The main cam's photos come out at 12 megapixels, and during the day performance is good, with nice sharpness, contrast and detail, and decently wide dynamic range. There is some visible noise though. Portrait shots are taken with the main cam and the depth sensor, and these look great for this price range. Edge detection is very convincing and the subject is well exposed. Now on to the ultra-wide. These photos have a color rendition that matches the main cams, and the wider perspective is nice to have. The quality here is nothing special for this sort of cam though. The photos are rather soft and low in detail. The 2-megapixel macro camera is used to take close-up shots, and these aren't great. There's no autofocus, so getting a sharp result takes trial and error. You'll need plenty of light to get something usable, and even then the detail level leaves more to be desired. In low light, photos from the main camera are underwhelming. There's plenty of noise, washed out colors, and low detail. The overall exposure is quite dark, while highlights are blown out. Turn on night mode though, and the extra couple seconds of processing really make a difference. The exposure is brightened up, noise is well controlled, colors look more lively, and shadows and highlights have more detail. Don't expect a whole lot from the ultra-wide cam at night. Images are underexposed, low in detail, and often blurry. There's no night mode support to help things out either. Selfies are taken with the 8-megapixel front-facing cam, and they have a decent amount of detail. However, they are noisy, the white balance is sometimes off, and the subject's face can come out underexposed and soft. The Redmi 9T can record video in only up to 1080p resolution at 30 FPS, and there is no stabilization. The quality from the main cam isn't great. You get good contrast, but detail and sharpness are lacking, and the dynamic range is narrow with clipped highlights. The ultra-wide camera's footage is much the same story, but with even less detail. So that's the Xiaomi Redmi 9T. For an entry-level price you get plenty of nice features, like a splash-proof build, a large Full HD screen, loud stereo speakers, incredible battery life, and a versatile set of cameras. Probably the biggest shortcomings here are the mediocre chipset and lackluster camera performance at night, but for this class of phone, these are par for the course. And finally, between this and the Poco M3, which is the better deal? Actually, I would recommend the Redmi. The difference in price isn't that much, and even if you're not a fan of this ultra-wide cam, you do get NFC and of course the splashproofing, which might come in handy someday. Thanks for watching guys, stay safe and see you on the next one.